Well, hello there. It is Tonya Poole, and we are on episode 2 of Fall Alchemy 2017, and it is October. I think the last video I did for Fall Alchemy was in September, so I am excited about being a little bit further into fall. We are in October now, one of my favorite months outside of August. But so we are on episode 2. And I hope that you have watched episode 1 because episode 1 was all about everybody's a Libra, including you, no matter when your birthday is. And we talked about how Libra is the sign that ushers us into fall. It is the sign that is all about equality, fairness, balance, bringing harmony to our lives. So that was in episode 1. And then I extended that in the master class. So I hope that you got a chance to download that as well, because the master class we went really deep for. I thought it was only going to be about an hour, but the master class ended up being about an hour and a half of some amazing stuff. We went really deep into that, and that's still available. So make sure that you watch episode 1, which is kind of a prelude to the master class number 1. So anyway, right now we're on episode 2, and the title of this one is Don't Beg in the Fall. Don't be a beggar in the fall. So what does that mean? So if you were with me back in the spring, when we first started the whole seasonal alchemy series, I mentioned one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn, who was an entrepreneur and a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker, teacher. And one of the things that he stated, which was so profound to me, he said, you either plant in the spring, get comfortable with planting in the spring, or beg in the fall. So I was like, whoa, that's powerful when I first heard it, because think about it. When a farmer or, a gardener or whoever is responsible for providing the food for themselves or the family or the community, if they fail to plant good seeds in the spring, right? In the spring and summer, right? When harvest time comes during this time of the year, they're not going to have any produce. They're not going to have any food because they played around in the spring and the summer and they did not plant what they needed to survive in the fall and the winter. And that was really important historically, and even now really, but because we all still need food to live. But historically, if you missed the growing season, that meant that your whole community really could die off in the fall and winter season. So it was very important to make sure that the proper seeds were planted in the springtime. If we just look at in our general lives, right? If we look at the springtime of our lives, that's the time when we have the most energy. That's the time when we are, we're coming out of winter, right? So if you think back to late February, then going into March, you're coming out of winter, you're sick of winter, you're ready for spring, and all of this energy comes forth in the spring season, and you start exercising more, going out more, doing more activities, maybe even starting a business, or you're just more energized and more active. And if you didn't take initiative on all of that energy that you had during that time, then during this time of year, October, fall, when it's time to start going more inward, you would have lost out. You can't do in October what you should have been doing in March and April and May and during that time of the year. So his statement, plant in the spring or be prepared to beg in the fall, isn't necessarily in line exactly with the seasons, but it's just to state that during the times of our lives when we should be active and putting out that energy, we need to be doing that work, whatever that work is for us, so that when the harvest time comes, when it comes time to reap the benefit of the work that we've done, we are prepared to reap, as opposed to having to beg and think like, oh gosh, oh, how can I hurry up and cram and get what I need, because I can tell, the time seems to be kind of running out. And there has been this post. I've seen it about 4 or 5 times on different social media platforms, and it said that and you may have seen it too, it said, may the last 4 months of your 2017 be the plot twist that you've been waiting for. And when I first saw it, I was like, ooh, yes, because usually, coming out of summer, we're going into fall, it's like, and if we look at a lot of what's been going on in the world, it's just been a lot going on for a lot of people. Have been struggling either on the bigger scheme of things, or even on a personal level. You may have experienced where certain struggles, or where you had certain goals for 2017, and you're looking at it now in October and you're thinking, gosh, I feel so far from my goals, or I've been knocked off my square so many times. It's like, I hope things turn around, because, I'm so sick of this year. I'm so sick of some of the things that I've been going through. So initially when I read that post, I could really get it. But the more I saw it and the more I thought about it, I began to think about how often do we wish and hope and wait for good luck, right? How often do we say, gosh, I hope something turns around. I hope some miracle happens. I hope some sort of magic happens, And I began to wonder if the people who either created that statement, or the people who that really, really resonated with, was it so much because you experienced a lot of struggle this year and you're just hoping things turn around? Or was it because you didn't plant in the spring and summer, and now that it's October, and now that the year is getting closer and closer to the end, it's like, oh man, I hope that something magically turns around for me. I hope, that there's some sort of good luck that happens, right? And that's really the whole point of seasonal alchemy, because one of my goals is to get myself and all of us to really understand that when we work in season, when we do whatever we're supposed to be doing in the right time, that's when the magic happens, right? There are certain things that happen in life where we're outside of our control, and maybe we have to pray about it, or do whatever we have to do to kind of make things shift in our favor. But a lot of the struggles and the hardships that we go through often is because we didn't do what we were supposed to do in the time in which we were supposed to do it. And so it's kind of like, if it's any of you school teachers, you could probably relate to this. You get those students who all year long played around, didn't turn their work in on time, didn't come to class, Then a couple of weeks before graduation, or a couple of weeks before, a week or so before report cards are due, or whatever, right? They come to you and say, what can I do for extra credit? How can I pass your class? How can I at least get a C? And it's like, if you had just been doing the work all semester long, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Now you're needing good luck, right? You're needing all of these miracles to happen in order to make things happen for you. So October, this time of year, and we're still in Libra season as of right now. I'm filming this. We're in early October. People are really realizing that, wow, 2017 is almost over. All of those New Year resolutions that I created back earlier in the year, and all of that energy that I had in March and April when spring was happening and things like that, it's like, okay, what have I done towards planting good seeds in my life, to creating the miracles that I want in my life, to creating whatever it is that I want? Did I just dream all year long? Did I, just hope and wish and fantasize? Did I do some things towards my goals and my resolutions? This is what this time of year is all about. So one of the things that I noticed about this time of year is that it really reveals two different kinds of people. Number one is those who did plant those good seeds earlier in the year, and maybe, they've worked hard, they may have struggled in some kind of way, or just had to just had to be patient and wait to reap the harvest of what they planted. And so this time of year then becomes like their harvest time. This time of year becomes the time when, you can begin to see the fruit of your labor. You may not see everything because you may have planted some seeds that may take years to manifest, to grow. But you begin to see some things come to light for you. Some things come to fruition. And then the other person is the one who did slack off, who was like that student who said, what can I do to pass the class? How can I get a C in this class, right? And so then for that person, it's like, it's still harvest time. So you still reap what you've sown, right? You still come to this place where it's like, oh man, I have a very limited amount of time to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish for this year. But this is also the time to make a decision. So I will go further into that in just a second. But if you remember, I said that, we are still in Libra season. Libra is the great balancer of the scales. Libra is, if you got the master class, it represents the Kemetic Netta or goddess Ma'at. Balance, equality, justice, fairness. What's on this side of the scale balances with what's on this side of the scale. Okay, you can't have more here than you have here. The scales are mirroring each other. Whatever is put here, it's going to balance out with what is put here, right? Libra is always working to balance those scales. So, and if you think about it, when we entered into fall, we went into the fall equinox. So even nature was creating balance, was creating equality in the amount of daylight hours and the amount of nighttime hours. Now, as we go further into fall, we will notice that it seems darker and longer. But initially, at the beginning of fall, there was the equilibrium, right? So that is what Libra is doing for us right now. So it's balancing those scales. It is looking at us, and it's requiring us, actually, this time of year is requiring us to look at ourselves and say, wow, did I plant what I planted? Is it going to match what I harvest? All right. So it's always, it's like in math class where both sides of the equation have to work out. So fx minus y has to equal 20 or whatever's on the other side of the equal sign. So it has to balance out. So that's what's happening now. This Libra energy is shifting and moving some things to make everything balance out. So, and then next season, when we go into Scorpio is all about transformation. So Scorpio energy will look at how what was on those scales and transform what was on those scales into something even greater than what was on the scales. And so it's very important to look at what have we planted and what we are now harvesting. What we are now harvesting in our lives, in our relationships, in our businesses, in our classwork, in our homes, right? What we are harvesting is equivalent to what we are planting or what we did plant. And so we have to ask ourselves three main questions. What were my goals for 2017? You have to think back to January, or whenever you created goals. What were my goals for 2017 and what have I done towards them? That will let you know what kind of seeds you have planted. And if you had no goals, right, then that also lets you know what you're harvesting. You had no goals, so you may be harvesting whatever is just the universe is giving to you, so you maybe gave nothing intentionally, so you're just kind of floating around, right? I've been there. I'm not judging. I'm just saying I understand that. But this is the time where we have to look at what were our goals and what did we do towards them. We have to ask ourselves, how have I intentionally grown? Life will grow you regardless. You know, a lot of people go through life unintentionally. They just kind of float, you know. But how have you intentionally grown? How have you, or what have you gone after? What have you sought to learn? How have you sought to grow, become a better version of who you are? And only you can decide what that is. How have you intentionally grown from that? How have you intentionally grown from even your trials and your struggles and the things that may have hurt you this year? Or are you still allowing those things that have hurt you, those things that you have struggled with, maybe even your failures, maybe even your mistakes? Are you allowing those things to determine your outcomes in life? Right? And then how do you feel about your commitment to the things that you said matter to you most? Now, you got to be honest right there. Like Libra, balancing those scales. You can't lie on the scales, right? It tells the truth. So how you feel about your level of commitment, you know if you've been that good student in class that was there in class and participated and deserved that A, or that person who never showed up and skipped and all that sort of stuff, and then came at the end and said, how can I pass this class? Many of us treat life like that, right? We play around, we don't want to know our purpose, or we don't strive to live our purpose. And then something happens to make us say, oh shoot, I got to get myself together. How can I do that real fast, right? And that's okay. But just understand that, there may be some kind of consequence to that. But the universe, again, is always seeking to put things in balance. So the minute that you become intentional about your goals, your purpose, your life, then things begin to shift. Things begin to shift and move for you. So whether you planted good seeds or not, right? This is the harvest time. This is when we begin to harvest whatever we have put into the ground. And this is also the time where we're about to go into transformation. So whatever's on those scales, whatever has balanced out, will begin to transform to create something new and more beautiful in the next coming weeks. It's kind of like if if you have flour and eggs over here and you have milk and sugar over here on this scale, you put them together, put them in the oven and bake it, it comes out to be something else greater than its parts, right? So we have to begin to look at all of the parts, everything that we have planted, and balance it out. If we planted getting enough rest and self-care throughout the year, then how does that look? How does our life look as a result? Have we planted lying all the time? Whatever, how is that working out for you? How is that balancing out? Okay. So the decision that we all have to make now, no matter what kind of seeds you planted, first we have to acknowledge that our inner selves always win. Whatever is our truest intention, whatever actual work, whatever actual intention that we put towards a thing is what will eventually manifest on the outside. So we have to understand that we can only hide but for so long, right? Because whatever we have put out, whether thought, word, action, deed, will begin to manifest on the outside. We are co-creators with God. So we are always creating. We're always manifesting. And so we have to decide we have to decide, we have to look at what we have put on the scales and then decide where are we going to go with that. Whether if we, if we liked what we put on the scales or we don't, we have to look at everything for what it is. Libra is telling us to be fair, to be just, to be balanced, to be honest, to really look at all of these things in a very clear and honest way, and then ask ourselves, where do we want to go with this? Do we like what's on the scales? If not, then we have to decide to make those changes. And so that is what I will talk about in the masterclass. I'm excited about it. Oh my gosh, that first masterclass was fire. Fire, fire, fire. So I'm looking forward to the second masterclass because I'm really going to talk about really making those key decisions. This is a real important decision-making time on where to go from here. Just like the person who maybe didn't plant the good seeds and it's harvest time and they're looking at their crops and nothing really came forth, they got to make a decision. Do I move the family to another place where we can feed, where we can eat? Do I borrow food from my neighbors? Like this is a real, I'm using gardening and farming examples, but that's the way it is in life. If we are looking at our 2017 and we're waiting on that plot twist, then that means we have to make a real clear decision right now. And so that's what I will talk about in the masterclass. I will discuss how to move forward, how to make the right decision, how to really examine what's on your scales so that you can then move forward and know what to do with what is on those scales, right? So we will go into that. The masterclass usually runs about an hour. The last one was more than that, so it could be more than that. But I look forward to having you in that masterclass. The link to that is down below. Also, because I use a lot of astrology in this series, so if you want to know what is going on in your astrological chart, in your birth chart, in your natal chart, I can do that for you. The link is down below, so I can tell you where Libra is, where Scorpio is for you, where your sun, moon, all that kind of stuff that has helped to shape you. You ever want to know why you do the things you do, why you like the things you like, why you're repulsed by the things that you're repulsed, why, whatever. All of that is in your natal chart. It is actually a blueprint to who you are. And I can examine your natal chart and give you some really clear guidance and information on what makes you you. What makes you you. So that link is down below as well. So I look forward to having you in the masterclass. Oh, yes. And October 19th, I will be live. I'm doing a very special live and in-person fall alchemy session. And we're going to go into some powerful manifestation rituals and tools, and I'm excited about that. Oh man, so make sure you click the link below to sign up. If you're in my area in North Carolina, then you can come to the live class on October 19th. So I look forward to seeing you there. Much love, peace and love until we speak again.